Minecraft is the game where you can build almost anything, and yet despite that, your life is almost always going to be harder without a chest room, or barrel room in my case, and despite that, I find myself regretting not having a decent boat pathway through my nether, and also if you don't have one of these, your build may feel slightly useless. This is my 11-year-old Minecraft world, but despite that, I still almost died a few times recently, and I have hundreds of builds I'd love to work on. As we come back to the Update Adventure series, I figured we would start from first principles and work out what it is you need for success when working on new builds, because it's not a mood board, it's not an add-on or a copious amount of weird building tricks, as much as I love these snails. Instead, it is the basics which can connect your builds together, because without them, you have a world that's too crowded, too spread apart, or that no one, including you, will want to explore, and that is something that no one should want, specifically yourself if you care about this world. So with that said, today, let's go through the 5 main things that your world will need if you don't want it to fail in the long run, and we're going to start with the first basic, which is infrastructure. This is a path that I built across my world literally a decade ago now, but it's still handy for me as a clear-cut, simple sprint across the world from one side to the other, and I find this to be incredibly handy, but it's not the only thing that you need. You can see just looking right here, I've got these big sky rails above me, although who uses minecarts now, but I've also got elite refining points, I've got blue ice pathways around the world, and having a delicate balance of these is important. And so an example in my world that I really need is to replace this tunnel, which I've been using to get around my nether. There's a huge slab of netherrack, which I mine through, and that's a fairly good stopgap solution, but it's been years now, and I kind of don't like running through such a long tunnel, then having to slowly glide and follow these end bricks. I think there are some benefits of this, but I also think it's just terrible in the long run when there are much faster forms of transport, and those will allow me to get to the end portal, which this is like my 4th end portal or something, but it allows me to get to where I am working on projects quite frequently in a faster, more effective way, and so let's build that infrastructure today. Step 1 is to work out the height of where we're going. It's around about 71 blocks, although this down here at 65 blocks is also acceptable, and then we'll see what we can link that into, because ideally, instead of everything having its own pathway, you have one set of integrated paths for walking, one set of integrated paths for, say, minecarts, and one set of integrated paths for flying, although in reality that just represents the entire sky of your world, and so I'm going to do something similar for the boats that I have. So specifically in my nether, I have 2 ice boat pathways. One of them is at 71 blocks, this is actually exactly what I was looking for, and the other is at 67 blocks. I really like this highway because it goes all the way out to my first functioning bastion, i.e. not destroyed, and I also like that it's a whole icy world that you can see underneath my overworld in the nether, so that when you look through the ice, you don't just see blue, you see a whole icy world existing down here. Sometimes blazes and wither skeletons seem to exist here. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, I think this is the more logical pathway if I wanted to later climb some stairs, and this is the better ice pathway in terms of using an existing mega project, and also in terms of actually going the right direction mostly already. You know what, yeah, I do think that this is probably the smarter bet. I'll continue the diagonal of this for as long as we can, and then have like an offshoot going in this direction maybe somewhere. I hope it doesn't go through a fortress, but I can probably line this up near perfectly and then make a tunnel going that way. So let's get some ice and let's do it. All of a sudden, destroying an entire frozen mountain is actually looking like a pretty decent idea, huh? And so here we are, I've lined up almost exactly on the X coordinate. Weirdly enough, it's exactly before the tunnel starts, so it's kind of a weird offshoot that will go this way, but that's entirely fine. Let's start digging, and let's remove some of our existing blocks. We will have to make sure that we keep this safe later to prevent gas going in here, but now let's extend a big highway going out over there. I think it makes sense to start with one wide and then make it wider later. You do need to have, if you're making tunnels through something, at least a couple of blocks of width, and also you do need to keep in mind that I think for regular ice, it's likely to melt, but with packed in blue ice, there's nothing really too concerning going on. But yeah, now I'm about to build some Minecraft infrastructure. It seems a little insane on the surface because surely what you want to build most right now is, say, I don't know, an entire excavated trail ruins, or what you want to build most right now is a brand new area of your world, but there's no point building it if it's not decently connected to the rest, because otherwise you'll never go there, and so the tunnel needs to be built. Let's go. Perfect. I have found myself, I believe, a good position to continue on from. Just gonna continue to do this till the end of time. That was questionable. But what would be more silly is not admitting that you need to have a world that is both connected and ideally later protected, as you can see. But yeah, for now, we're just going to keep on digging to make sure the tunnel is going to the right place and my measurements are correct. Always good to start with a small version of something, make sure it's right, and then expand from there later. Definitely wasn't expecting to end up in a crimson forest next to a soul sand valley, but we will still persist, just tunneling through everything in our way, because this is ultimately what the Romans did and what you must do too to have a successful world. You need to just acknowledge that everything that's there right now needs to come secondary to your needs to get across your world. And in case you think this is all about, yeah, you need to have blue ice pathways everywhere, actually, I'm a big believer in the idea that actually different transport methods are good. Yay, it looks like we've done it, and we may have brought some piglins with us. But yeah, this is something that may seem like it's a good idea on the surface to just have one ultimate form of transport, but actually, I think some of the best worlds that I look at and some of the most interesting designs actually take advantage of multiple pathways. As an example, here is one of my editor friends' worlds. As you can see, it's got this stereotypical pathway that goes from place to place, and they've done the normal thing that everyone thinks is a good idea of block palettes with ugly blocks mixed in there. Personally, this isn't my taste, but you can see how many people fall into connecting an entire world this way, and this is fine on the surface. Maybe even great, you could say, because it denotes where a square is, etc, etc, but also hidden amongst these things are secret little entrances and ways around the world. So, for example, if you wanted to, you could come in down this water bottle, or down this water body, and you'll find your way into a secret set of underground tunnels that can also connect the world. Wow, that's really handy. But as well as these two methods, there'll also be faster way around the world too. So, for example, you can go into the Nether, and the Nether is therefore kind of like the highway system of any world, because every one block you travel in the Nether is 8 blocks in the overworld. Everyone knows that boats, or indeed the Elytra, are the fastest way around, and so if you make some nice ice highways, you can get some serious speed achieved in this place. It's so great that apparently all of these foxes want to do it too, and so this is something that you can take and you can do. I think it's a really, really fun thing by itself. Look at this, we've traveled all of that distance in the overworld. I think it will be about 1,000 blocks in the space of 5 or 10 seconds in the Nether. This is what it means to connect your world. You need to consider short distances, medium distances, as well as long distances, and how people would enjoy getting from place to place. But even when we come back to a single player world, something I'm sure you all know I'm playing 99% of the time that I'm in Minecraft, even when we come back here, oh, I should really watch out for that, huh? Okay. Even when we come back to a single player world, it's still worth noting that, yeah, actually, most of the time that you are getting around the world, you are using time that could be spent making it better. So on an efficiency level, it makes sense, but it also makes sense on a beauty level, something you also should choose not to neglect, but that is why infrastructure is so important. And now you can see how literally just 15 minutes of effort has gotten me not just a very functional, fast form of travel across the world. Look how fun this is. This is a way more interesting way. Oh. This is a way more interesting way to get around the Nether, I think. Is it going to go all the way from here? I hope so. Oh, okay. But it's a way more interesting way to get around the Nether, but also a much faster one that will save me lots of time in the future when I need to go look at my trail ruins or my, this side of the world. But also something that is fun is the fact that I picked up all of this netherrack while doing it. So that is all netherrack that can be used for my console-sized Nether. That is one of the projects that has used the most blocks of anything ever. I calculated it to be about 240,000 netherrack, and you think you pick up netherrack easy until you need large quantities of it. Okay, I'm just gonna keep trying to sleep even though I'm being harassed, because I've got something I'd like to show you. Being stubborn and set in your ways is a perfectly valid way to live life, as you can see right there. But yeah, look at this. This is my exposed trail ruins. I've been doing actual archaeology, you might have noticed, and being able to connect to here, where I keep a lot of resources, by the way, because I've picked them up, and being able to take those back with me, or use them for something else over here. But the point being, connecting the world is always a better thing, unless you hate globalization, in which case skip this step and instead move into the next one, because making navigation easier easier is also important. And in case that sounds a lot like building infrastructure, I would say the infrastructure is the how, and the making navigation easier is the kind of making it make sense to someone who isn't you, but also to future you. Let's be honest, we've all made that future us's problem, and one of those things is working out what actually is down a long pathway somewhere, or indeed what's on the other side of a Nev portal. Something that I really like when it comes to Nev portals is just placing a few blocks around it to signify what build is on the other side. I have an open end portal all the way out here, and so using some end bricks makes this very obvious, but I can also take this a step further and build it into the infrastructure or anything else to help me wayfind across the Nether. There are lots of boring ways that you can pathfind around a Minecraft world. You could just put signs up, you could make sure that people have constant access to maps, and I like these ideas, sure, on the surface, but I also like replicating life the tiniest bit with my Minecraft builds. So Green Park is a station which is on the London Underground. It's an underground railroad in London, and it's one that a few people get lost on because there's a lots of different lines, they have different colours, but two of them are the Jubilee, which is grey, and the Piccadilly, which is blue. And so to help you understand which one you're closer towards when you're transferring at Green Park, slowly but surely as you go through the corridors, you'll notice that one of the colours becomes more prevalent than the other. So you start, for example, all blue as you're on the Piccadilly line, and as you head towards the Jubilee, it gets more and more grey, and to the point that there's very few blue tiles left. This is a very simple wayfinding mechanism in the real world, but it is also surprisingly effective, and so I figured it'd be fun to do something like this in Minecraft, because I have quite a lot of this that I need to protect from piglins spawning or from ghast attacks and stuff that's like that. Why don't I slowly have some end bricks that filter their way in here in weird, fun, quirky patterns? Or we could go entirely randomly, but why don't we start with something like this and slowly have it filter its way into being entirely end bricks with very few polished deep slate. I'm gonna see how that works right now. Yeah, I've gotta say, I would never really consider mixing these blocks normally, but it just works in a kind of odd way that I found out entirely on accident right here. And isn't that a beautiful little mistake? You know, just to quote someone who I think was an artist, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. And so now let's finish our happy accidents on the other side, where we'll have just the tiniest occasional hint of some of these deep slate in what is otherwise a very endstone heavy feature, and also this will function to stop piglins attacking me while I roll through what it is admittedly their biome, but you know what, if they felt like it was so important, they should have built a boat ice highway through it. I'm just making it a bit nicer, I would argue. But yeah, we have to do that on both sides, just to make sure nothing comes through here. Basically no end stone bricks by the time we're here. The tiniest bit of flavor that seems like it does very little will impact people on a level that they might not even notice. I think art is around us all of the time, and although you only notice the art that maybe offends you or perfectly inspires you, there's a lot of art that does neither of those things, and it's worth knowing about that stuff too, I think at least. So there we go, look how wonderful this is. And then we continue, okay, we just pretend none of that happened. And then we finish up the last of this tunnel, and boom, new project. But there are other places in my world that I think could benefit from this. I think, because today is kind of a Nether-centric episode, an example that immediately came to mind was my mushroom biome, because I pick up mycelium on the regular. I don't know if you're familiar. I decided to walk here, by the way, and big mistake. If you make a horse tunnel across your Nether, make sure to bring a horse for it. But also you can see another mistake here is I've got the mushroom island, which is labeled on a sign, and I think this is great by itself, but I also think that one of the great things about Minecraft, if you believe in, you know, the idea of adding to your world's existence and maybe lore beyond that, something you can do is you can actually decide to signify this in more important ways. Signs are great, and knowing there's a mushroom island there, which I've destroyed many times to get mycelium, by the way, knowing that is there is fairly useful, but what if there was a better way to indicate this? Well, I think there is, and let me show you the before, and then let's start destroying some netherrack. Again, very handy for my console overworld project, which will definitely be finished at some point. And then let me tell you what the plan is going to be, because I was just going to bring some mycelium out here, and, you know, I feel like mycelium and the Nether is a weird enough combination by itself, but then I realized, you know how else I could indicate that there is a mushroom biome here? With something made out of mushroom blocks. And then you know what immediately came to mind? I think you do, because I'm going to have to dig out a little bit of space for this right now. That's right, you can see that the snail is made of mushroom blocks. And yeah, I made a tactical substitution for end rods into torches, which I think looks just as good while being slightly cheaper and also lighting up the area slightly better. But also you can see that the snail, you know, there's one on the other side of the earth to you at all times. He might be chasing you down, you never know for sure. This snail is heading towards the mushroom biome, and so that's a hint that you should go this way. Just a subtle cue that, like, he's clearly looking at something. I think I could probably remove a few more blocks from here too, just make it a little bit more obvious, and then maybe even dig the tunnel wider. But just having these basic minor improvements will make a big difference the next time you need to go somewhere. At least it will for me, if I can bring a horse out here, because that was far too long of a journey. But just these minor niceifications, as I like to call them, can make a big difference to your world. And ultimately, isn't that all we ever tried to do? By the way, I destroyed this whole mushroom biome at some point. I've got 2 full shulker boxes full of mycelium, and because it just grows back, as you can see, it looks like I've really just taken a few patches here or there, something which is either really cool or really annoying depending on your perspective. But yeah, I will take just a few mycelium for that last little stretch, just in case there is any doubt left in my mind by the time I'm getting here. I want it to be absolutely clear that, yeah, this is the mushroom portal, and I think that will do the job. Although actually, you know, maybe a block here, and a block over here, and then a block over there as well. I hope I will get the point by then. And so whether it's something as simple as a mushroom snail to represent the biome of mycelium, or something as complex as an entire frozen part of your nether to represent where your ice islands are, this is still one of my favorite projects, by the way. I love that ice cast. But whatever it is, having something to give your world some theming is nice, because it makes it very clear what stuff is where and creates a slightly better physical connection. I think beauty is important, but rather than get ahead of ourselves, I also think that something that is important is making your connections nicer. Because much as I've been railing against minecarts all episode long and saying, yeah, no one really needs them anywhere, you might notice I have several versions of these in my world, and they can add a little bit of flavor when you feel like you have to take one. In fact, one of my fun systems I have is not just a sky rail, but this big underwater rail, which as best I know just kind of ends somewhere along here. Yeah, I'm about right about that. However, this is kind of a shame. Oh, actually, it goes over there. That's interesting. I feel like this would definitely be the way to go. In fact, actually, if you want a little bit of history about my world, because it started in Minecraft Console Edition, where the worlds were 432 by 432, this would have been the unbreakable wall at the edge of my world. And so it's funny now to see that there's some coal there right now, because actually this tunnel, being at 244 on the Z-axis, is almost perfectly located to connect into a project that would thematically be perfect by rail. That project, of course, being one that I'm most fond and proud of. I get so many memories when I see this, and something that might shock you is that I actually built a step further than this and have been doing that recently on stream, but I've been building the rest of the tutorial world slightly underwater to represent how it's aged and it would have, you know, sea levels are rising, something along those lines. It's really fun in my opinion. But as you can see right here, I have a minecart, and something you might not know about Minecraft Bedrock is that minecarts work just fine underwater, as wrong as that feels. And so all I have to do is take this tunnel right here, which is going to go into a cave and be hidden away, and build it out over to there. That is a lot of stone blocks, I'll have to admit, but you know, it looks like I was prepared for this because I have a full shulker box full, so that is what I'm going to do. Build this out diagonally and then downwards and connect my subway all together in the world because it thematically makes some sense, and I think it will be a lot of fun, so let's go. Have you noticed how minecart rails render differently when they're about 10 blocks in front of you? So there's this constantly moving line out in front. It's very odd. Anyway, speaking of very odd, I've made some good progress now on the minecart track. I'm going to continue moving it this way. I brought a ton of powered rails with me to make sure it moves fast, but now I need to solve another problem, and it represents one which I guess you could argue it's solvable in a lot of ways, but basically I think I would drown if I use this minecart rail underwater. That's also ignoring the fact that there are some parts of the water you physically can't place rails in. So this water flows out here, and like, as you can see, I can't place rail there. I can waterlog the rail, I place it right here just fine, but I can't place it in flowing water because it flows away, which I don't. It doesn't make sense to me intuitively, but you know, I'm not here to question Minecraft. If we did that, we'd be here all day. But instead, what I am here to say is I am now going to have a little bit of an airlock in this whole system, and also I'm going to do something that I've always wanted to do in real life. Or rather, I'm going to fix a problem that I've seen in real life, because ultimately working out what you should build in your Minecraft world is always going to be a hard question. There's never going to be a definitive right answer to that, and you know, that's maybe understandable to a lot of people, maybe frustrating to some. But one of the things about that is one of the things about the real world that I've always wanted to fix is there is a tunnel which goes in the ground between the UK and France. It's called the Channel Tunnel. Some people affectionately call it the Channel. And when you go through the Channel, you expect, like, yeah, you're gonna see the ocean and stuff. Wow, this is the future. It's gonna look so cool. But then you look out and you realize, wait a minute, no, that's obviously not how any of this actually works, because it goes in the safest set of stone that they could actually mine through. And there's something about that I would like to fix in Minecraft, because you know, sometimes we make these comments about Minecraft mirroring the real world, and it makes sense that, you know, if you're going to make something that is artistic, that is you know, like a representation of you, it's going to be reflective of your real world experiences. And just like in the real world, where I think sometimes people get caught up in the vision that you can fix everything in the world if you just do this one thing, I think that's a dangerous belief. I think the idea of being fully convinced that you know, like, you are the conduit for change, it's something that is like a nice idea when you use it to self-actualize and do right, but it's an idea that can make you feel like you're responsible for every ill in the world, when in reality, the things that you are responsible for are relatively minor, but still important. You know, it's we like to overstate or understate our own importance to the world. And I'd just like to say in this video, going through all of these slightly unfinished projects, I sometimes feel this sense of like, well, what's even going on here? But I also sometimes I should be swimming up to the surface a few seconds ago. Oh yeah, this is bad. You know when I said I sometimes nearly dying? This is a reminder of why you need airlocks underwater. Just some little space where you can go and you can get the tiniest bit of oxygen. Seems like a good idea. So I'm gonna finish placing some stone here, and I'm gonna pray that I can get some oxygen from this area right here. Come on, it has to work, right? There we go, perfect. So it's dark in here now, which means we now need to move some torches. I'll just place some, all these walls over there. But look at this, I've now got a place to breathe where I won't die. I found a problem and I solved it. I think the small problems that you can solve are often much more satisfying to solve than the big ones that you probably can't. And maybe there's a lesson in there somewhere. Or maybe the real lesson is give up on your dreams. But no, more seriously, I think something I always try to take from when, you know, things are frustrating and when you feel like you don't make a difference is actually you're making huge differences all the time. You just can overestimate what the scale should actually be. I think the comparison you always need to make is to yourself. And if you're doing a better job than you used to do, that's way more important than anything else anyone can ever try to measure you by. Or maybe that's just what I would say because I'm me. Maybe actually you should be measuring yourself against some specific person out there. But until we find that one true measuring stick, oh, it's a real pain building a glass tunnel like this, by the way. Until we find that one true correct measuring stick, we can stick to our current system. So now we're going to place a lot of stone in a pattern like this. And this stone will eventually connect to this tunnel over here. And once it connects to that tunnel over there, I will have myself a complete tunnel. Although now, I still have to grapple with the question of what am I going to do as far as water is concerned. I think there are only really a couple of solutions, and they don't feel right. Because anywhere where there's a water source, I can place rail or I can place powered rail. And so I think I'm going to have to specifically limit the water from going in places that aren't there. So if that makes any sense. If I put some buttons on the wall here, like I've got some stone, I could theoretically, I don't know how well it will work in practice, put buttons there, there, and there. And then buttons here, here, and here. And then a button, oh, I guess we just have to put another one, like, here. And then something to stop the water flowing over here. I don't know what that's going to be. Oh, yeah, so as long as we have something in the air on top of that, we'll be great. Some ladder, some item frame, then we can stop this flowing out and we can solve our problem. So this is a silly solution, but it's what we got to do. Ultimately, I guess we could just move the walls in by one block temporarily. Right here, put a stone and a stone, grab a button. Oh, I don't have any more buttons. Make two more buttons, and then look at this. problem solved. Solving a problem here and there can feel really good, I think. And then eventually we'll have a minecart rail go here. Yeah, if I use a minecart rail, that will stop the water from flowing into where that space is, I think. So we'll place a block and then immediately break it and then place a powered rail. In fact, I'll break it with my fist just to guarantee the powered rail gets there fast enough. Okay, let's go. Ah, okay, so there are only some blocks that are capable of actually stopping it from moving, and this is not one of them. I find these rules to be very confusing. We can make it probably jump over this gap if we believe in ourselves, like go into the sky a bit. But yeah, having water walls doesn't make any real sense, but you can totally do it in Minecraft, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, having more theming to your builds, such as a minecart rail from the tutorial all the way down here and across my world, is a great way to connect things together, for one thing, but it's also a great way to make the world feel that tiniest bit more alive. Like, you feel like you found something when you came here, and you feel like you have something a bit more special when you're looking at the mince rat sign and you realize that, you know what, actually, I'm just one short tube journey away from the real world, although it's quite a few more blocks at this point. But yeah, having a beautiful underwater minecart rail with the wall of water is something we can all enjoy, but only when it's actually complete, right? And finishing your projects is the fourth point that is a hard one to really explain or to really make a difference within a Minecraft world, because obviously everyone knows you already have to do that, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I've tried many ways to keep myself on track in my world. I have this big shack where I keep my current projects and my future project ideas, but it just isn't very nice. Partially because of this death by sign concept. I feel like signs are just one of the worst ways to communicate lots of information. They can be really good for a simple title, but when you're trying to share a lot more, I just don't want to come in here and read them, which is why I have an idea. It's to make one of Minecraft's most delightful crafting recipes. So if you've never seen the recipe for the solution to my problem, which is, you know, who wants to come to the specific room filled with signs, it is to make a portable sign room, you know, a room that could open up whenever I wanted to. What could that possibly be? Well, can you imagine yet? You got it in your head? That's right. We grab one of these. It's a book. We combine it with... Oh, I've got 52 books. We grab one of these and we combine it with some ink. Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? And then we combine that with a feather and it makes the book and quill, because you need the feather to have the ink in it. I think it's a real nice idea. And so if you sign this book, it stays permanently, fixed in your world. But if you just want to write down, for example, current projects, then you'd be able to let the game know, you'd be able to let yourself know your aspirational ideas, so at any point in time you could reach into those. And also, if we wanted to, we could have the next page over here being project ideas, and now whenever I have a good idea, instead of just losing it, or instead of waiting till the next time I'm free to do a project, I can write it down right here. So I've had forever the idea, for example, or rather a to-do list is to say, I want to finish my sugarcane that's 320 blocks tall, finish sugarcane farm to Bedrock. That's simple, right? Maybe that's an in-progress project, actually. But we also, I think it's fair to say, would love to make new builds, like build a wool farm in the end. You know, that's how you spell wool. Build a wool farm in the end. And so here are the 6 biggest ideas I would like to do. And as something special, since the Let's Play is coming back, welcome to a very special episode, I would actually allow you, the audience, to decide which of these I do next. I am going to work on a new project, and we're going to do so with democracy. Democracy is objectively the worst way to do many things, as I've proven time and time again, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it. Also, I think I should, give this a name if I'm going to write in it. I'll make this the project book. And in case you're worried about, well, isn't this a waste of a whole inventory space? We only get 36 of those, Toy Cat. Well, actually, here's the smart way around that. I'll permanently keep this in my utility box, which is still currently blue, even though it's not meant to be, and I'll throw this in there, and now I'll always have a way to access the project book, which I think is an absolutely delightful and fun time. So there we go. Project book goes right in this corner, next to all of the other fun stuff. Isn't that just marvelous? I think it is. So yeah, my utility box is wonderful. My other boxes are empty or filled with all the things they've got, and I am much closer towards staying on track with the projects that I want to complete. And yeah, indeed, I've got some very, very fun ones. It's fun. I was looking back at my project list, and I said just earlier that actually I haven't really stayed on track with those. But if we take a closer look at my current projects from when I wrote this board, not only did I finish 2 of those projects because the signs are gone, but also Ice Pathway Never, I did that today. I didn't know until just now that I would have done that, but yeah, I would say that this is officially done. Yeah. I would also say that the house inside the basement of my house is done, but now it has to be the house inside the basement of my house. Under my house, which, you know, it's another layer down, but still, I finished one of the projects, I just created a whole nother one. Isn't this absolutely delightful? By the way, that's been my most recent streaming series. If you want to go check it out, what's happening underneath this house is getting crazier and crazier every single time. I'm starting to doubt what's reality and what's not at this point, just like how you might be starting to doubt how it is that I can spend so long in some of these projects and what the real motivating factor is. And honestly, I would like to say that one of the things that does make me feel most motivated, even on these projects that are so far away, like the 2 you saw me working on today are for something which is thousands of blocks away and involves a 1.20 structure, and something which is hundreds of blocks away and involves a 11-year-old, copy of something that, really represents many of our childhoods. But something that I think is more interesting than both of these is perhaps the thing that I see everywhere in my world all of the time, and that is beauty, because the thing that will affect your world more than anything else is making things that are impactful to you, and honestly, the thing that matters more than anything else is seeing these things when you walk between your builds. Ultimately, there is a sight line that is always visible from any build to any other, and whenever I can see my sugarcane farm, a testament to my want to build the most amount of sugarcane possible, because I really did just enjoy farming it back when farms were usually manual. I really loved having a really silly farm, and so I built one right there. A similar testament to this might be my very silly nether portal. I wasn't sure how many blocks you needed. Was it 12 or was it 1200? And so I placed enough to make a big old space over there. Whether it's just the brown panda that sits in a weird enclosure by himself, something about every part of your world can tell a story, and if the story is one that you personally enjoy, then I think every time you walk past it, it's going to be something that adds to your stuff. Sometimes those stories are very minor and are worth skipping over. I made all of the tree leaves on those spruce trees over there into cherry ones, and I'll be honest with you, I notice it every time, but I don't think about it anywhere near as much as I think about my cobblestone generator, which is, by the way, I'm pretty sure the most effective way to actually turn cobblestone from these 2 resources. But yeah, it's absolutely delightful whenever I see certain builds in my world, and so having this beauty in your world, obviously this is my representation of it, this is what I believe things are, but that's all beauty ever is. When we talk about beauty, I think a lot of people have people come to mind, but there is no such thing as the world's most beautiful person, there is no such thing as the world's most beautiful building or country, and indeed, there is no most beautiful Minecraft build. If you're proud of the carrot that you made from pumpkins, you can tell I wasn't because I made a better one out of wool over there, but if you're proud of the carrot made from pumpkins, then that's what matters. If it brings you joy to look at it, then that's what you need to have in your life, because ultimately, everything will eventually fade one day. Oh, look, I've got cherry trees up there. You can tell just how much I love those cherry trees from how many silly representations you'll find around this world. But ultimately, yeah, everything in life is temporary, and what matters is, does it spark joy in you while it's here? I think this is like a minimalist quote, but it is a real one that I hold to. I think having great open spaces, disconnected only by... I shouldn't have stood there, huh? Disconnected only by... oh, yeah, that's weird. But great empty spaces, disconnected only by these small moments of things that you really wanted to build, actually can be a delightful recipe for a Minecraft world, much more than a densely packed world where you just built things because you felt you had to. And that is why I view my world as kind of a giant art exhibit, and it sort of is to some extent, A big collection of stuff over a long enough period of time is eventually going to represent you, and it's up to you what it is that does that today. And so, yeah, funnily enough that I'm talking about art exhibits, because one of the builds I've wanted to do most for a while now is in the same vein that I have a museum, which is meant to be like a collection of stuff, that belongs in a museum, but literally for every potion ingredient, for every single food, for every single item that existed in 1.16, even every single painting and armor trim, as I've got right here, I feel like something that I'd like to expand into that is entirely making my own goals for the sake of it is having an art museum, having having a collection of things that I think are just visually incredibly interesting in Minecraft, or are broken and indeed fit this niche that I think is interesting on this channel. And so that is something I might be doing soon. The only question is where to put it. But I'll leave you to work out the answer to that. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Let's Play. Next week, it's not 2012, it's not a daily series. But in the next episode, I've got some fun things planned, and I hope that you enjoyed coming along for this, because I look forward to seeing you there. If you want to see the next episode and every other video that I make here on this channel, consider subscribing to it, although let's be honest, you're subscribed at this point, and the only thing I can sell you on is like, hey, have you checked out the live streams? Last week, I built a house under my Let's Play house. That was one of the most fun times I had for a project for a while, and you can see my various stream projects happening over there. So hit the bell or follow my community posts, alright? I don't even know at this point. I just know that I appreciated you spending some time with me, and I hope you have a great day, because I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye!